So Don, very happy to be with you today, to have this opportunity to have a few minutes with you and discuss what you've been doing at Pega over the last decades, I would say, and what you prepare to do over the coming decades. Um, I would love to hear from you what you're currently passionate about, what is driving your passion in the future, what you're excited about for the future. Um, let's start maybe with a very simple question. Can you just give us a short story of Pega over the years and how you've
Sure.
developed and how you're coming there today with such exciting projects, products, and future?
Excellent. Yeah. So Pega is an AI decisioning and workflow automation platform. Um, we focus on enterprise organizations. We tend to sell to pretty large and pretty sophisticated organizations. We grew out of, originally our first client was Citibank, where we
Mhm.
put in workflows to automate some of their more complicated payment exceptions processes, and they still use Pega, although
Okay.
not the same DEC based software we delivered originally, but they still use Pega to do that today. So
Great
you know,
story. Great
we
story. How many years with them?
they first signed in 1983. So that would be now, what are we looking at? 42 years,
Wow.
44, 41 years. So yeah, so it's been a pretty long
That's
track record. And what's been interesting is, the last year or so has been so exciting because a lot of what's been happening in the market around generative AI and large language models and this sort of more broad, what I would say, C-suite visibility into the power of what AI can do, it really plays into many of the things we've been talking about for close to 40 years around how do you use AI and decisioning and intelligent systems to drive more automation, better experiences, and ultimately better results for the businesses that we work with.
completely makes sense. To me, you're one of the pioneers, if not the pioneer, who's been talking about combining those different capabilities across technologies to automate company food almost autonomously,
Mm-hmm.
drive a company with technology. Um, you were before the era of RPA, before the era of intelligent automation. You were there. And across function. That's also something that some companies have been focused on some functions, and you've been across. Helping CEOs manage all the functions in companies. Um, can you tell us what I mean most recently? So what has been your focus and what has resonated with your clients and yeah.
Well, I mean, like I think everybody in the software space, right? The emergence of large language models and generative AI, kind of on a massive scale and broad commercial accessibility, have really just generated a whole lot of innovation and thinking, right? So I think one of the things that's been at the center of some of our work has been what we've called Pega GenAI Blueprint, which is a tool we released just a little over a month ago. And
Okay.
it's actually available on pega.com. You can go to pega.com slash blueprint to play with it. But what we do is we use generative AI to attack what I have seen as sort of a consistent problem sometimes in doing big automation efforts, which is being able to bring a spirit of innovation and willingness to redesign some of your core processes in your business from end to end. If you do a lot of automation work, you ultimately get involved with projects where, for a variety of reasons, you end up kind of repaving the cow path. You end up using automation to automate a broken process rather than actually go back and fix the process in terms of the outcome it's trying to deliver and the experience you want to deliver, whether it's to a customer or an employee or a stakeholder. And and so with Gen AI Blueprint, what we do is we use generative AI and a library of our own best practices from many years of solving key workflow areas for across a number of industries to recommend and suggest optimal workflows for any use case you can put in. So you can actually come to Blueprint, you can give it any use case. So you could say, I'm, in a insurance company and I want to automate the first notice of loss process for receiving a claim. And we'll give you an optimized process of what the best practice could look like, including data model, user screens, etc. And so rather than trying to start from a blank page, which sometimes is hard, we give you a starting point and then let you configure it and tweak it and adjust it to fit your needs. And I think that's become a pretty powerful way of getting people to think about how to drive that kind of process optimization.
Very interesting. So you're using GenAI to help project management, to help implement, to help design and implement those your own systems, basically helping companies to redesign their processes, having a starting point of their processes. So we can imagine a process map.
Yeah.
I imagine a process map where so basically you ask this GenAI platform, give us an example of, as you said, this process, or review the process that we have and give us a new way or an optimized way to manage it.
An optimized version of it, right? So one of the things that we're really excited about is not only can Blueprint take in just the name of a process, right? But increasingly, we're letting it take in descriptions, existing documentations. You can take in a BPMN, maybe of an existing process, and Blueprint will then turn that into an optimized version of what the process could look like. And we've really moved away over the last, say, 5 to 10 years from more traditional flowchart BPMN based process models because frankly at the scale of what enterprise processes look like, they become really hard to read and really hard for, I think, all but the most technical people to digest. So what we
Mm.
try to do is lay the process out in a case stage diagram where we see the stages that it needs to flow through, the steps that need to take place. So we're also normalizing your process models into something that's consistent and I think consumable not just by the technology teams, but by the business stakeholders and the business owners of the process.
Excellent, excellent. Could you is it the only way you use GenAI, or are you using it in other ways?
Absolutely not, right? So Blueprint has sort of like been at the first and foremost, and just been an exciting area. I think what's interesting is I think there's a category of Gen AI capability that is going to quickly become table stakes across pretty much any vendor product or software product you have, right?
Yes.
So obviously we've been embedding Gen AI to do things like case and workflow summarization and to do things like generate text and consume and summarize documents. And I think that's all great and powerful and really exciting. I also, I have been around this industry long enough and realize that there's not we're not going to be alone in having that, right? I think every tool you have on your desktop is going to be able to use, like I just did a meeting today on WebEx, and WebEx emailed me a summary of the meeting, right? Like, I think we're going to expect that kind of stuff as table
Yeah.
stakes from our software. And I think that's true not just for vendors. I actually think that's true for enterprises as well. I think there's an opportunity for all of us to get some productivity gains, but there's going to be a degree to which that's a kind of lift all boats productivity gain. And so we are doing a lot of that kind of stuff. So the summarization, etc. But what we're also trying to think about is how can we use Gen AI to not just drive these sort of table stakes productivity gains, but truly drive new innovations and new ways of thinking into our clients. So Blueprint is an example of that. How do I get
Okay.
you to think about your processes in a completely different way? How do I
Yes.
basically allow you to apply design thinking at scale? Right? Another area where we're using Gen AI to do that is what we call coach. So, we're trying to ensure the last thing I want, our clients to deal with. I was talking with a client last week who has 17 different systems on their customer service desktop, right? I worry if we're not careful, those 17 different systems will just become 17 different chatbots, right? And so what we're trying to think about is how do I take this AI capability and not just turn it into yet another standalone thing for our users to interface with, but something that is deeply integrated and contextual to the work that they're doing. So with GenAI Coach, what we've built is an AI agent that operates not in parallel to what you're doing, but is actually aware of the process you're working on, the
Mhm.
status of it, the context of it, and then dynamically, based on that process, is going out and pulling in additional information. Maybe it's pulling knowledge from a content repository. Maybe it's pulling historical process data or examples of other processes that may have run simultaneously. And it's distilling that all for you and bringing it to you in real time as you're doing your work. So
Wow.
it's not that you have to go chat with this thing and ask it to do stuff. It looks at what you're doing and then is pulling everything together from the enterprise to help you optimize how you do it. So that's another big area where we're really excited because we've got this rich set of context information based on the work that people are doing in Pega. So now how can I use that to make sure that the AI bots we work with aren't just sitting off to the side, but are deeply ingrained with the work that the users are already doing?
Excellent. How can you explain a bit more this Gen AI coach? Is it
Yeah.
how do you feed it, and which kind of technology is it? Is it a RAG technology?
So
Is it
actually, it's using a combination of a bunch of things, right? So
okay?
so we have a RAG technology that we call Knowledge Buddy, right?
Okay.
And so Knowledge Buddy uses RAG to basically go into any content repository you want to point it at, build the vector database dynamically of that content, and then use that vector database to dynamically generate queries that then come back and give you both answers but attribution and restrict the answers to actually the content set you want to restrict it to. So all the great benefits of RAG.
Right. Great. What is the name of this?
So our RAG tool is called Knowledge Buddy,
Okay,
and
knowledge base.
and we've built it. We again we RAG isn't unique to Pega. It's becoming, I think, perhaps the predominant pattern for how enterprises use Gen AI in a way that is controlled and governed. What we've wrapped around RAG is all of our expertise, which is, oh, well, you need workflows to manage content coming in and out. You need processes and audits that allow you to govern when new pieces of information are being added, how things are getting removed from the vector store dynamically. You need audit trails of how it's being used and what questions are answers and where you're not getting answers. So what we've really focused is building around not just the cloud-based infrastructure so that our clients don't have to understand the vector database and chunking and embeddings and all of that. So we do all that for you. But then the governance and the controls that wrap around it so that clients can really deploy it at enterprise scale. So that's called Knowledge Buddy, and so that's been another exciting product. We're going to talk about that at PegaWorld in a couple weeks. So
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Um,
so
that's
Coach, as we were
yeah.
yeah, Coach, as we
Yeah.
were saying, Coach can plug into Knowledge Buddy, which is
Okay.
great,
Okay.
but Coach can plug into other things as well. So I one of the things that I think sometimes gets lost in all of the excitement around large language models and generative AI is there's a whole lot of statistical AI that I think most companies still haven't fully exploited to the level that they can to actually drive optimization, right?
Mhm.
So, we have in Pega a capability we call Process AI. And Process
Okay.
AI looks at historical process data. So, if I ran a process and I ran it 100,000 times before, there
Mhm.
are patterns in that data that allow me to make predictions about future work that I may do.
Interesting.
So I may be able to predict, for example, that this new piece of work that arrived has a 95% likelihood of missing an important deadline or service level agreement that happens 3 weeks from now. And if I can predict that on day one,
Mhm.
and take the necessary escalation action, then I can avoid missing a customer expectation. In some cases, I can avoid paying a regulatory fine that might be associated with that deadline.
Yes.
So, process AI is a form of statistical AI.
Mhm.
The models are built entirely on the customers, the client's own data. The models are inherently explainable because it's not like I'm building, millions of levels of depth in a neural network. I'm building a relatively explainable linear regression or Bayesian model, right? So it fits very much into the need of what enterprises want, but it solves a really important need of how do I actually ensure my processes are getting better and optimizing based on what I've learned in the past. So one of
Excellent.
the other things that Coach can do is not only can it tap into things like Knowledge Buddy, it can tap into things like Process AI and some of the predictions coming out of that. So it becomes this kind of one-stop shop to pull all the different insights that you may have and do that in a way that is contextual to, say, if I'm a insurance adjuster and I'm working on a claim. I know the type of claim you're working on. I know the details of the claim. I know how it compares to other claims that you may have done in the past. I can go pull information dynamically from your policy via Knowledge Buddy. I can make predictions on the claim based on Process AI. And then I can surface to the claims adjuster, this is what you should be working on right now if you want to get this thing done as fast as possible.
Excellent. Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. So the coach helps to identify opportunities,
Yeah,
knowing the different processes and the different ways they are managed,
that's right.
identify ways to standardize them,
That's right.
identify errors or weaknesses or potential steps that can be improved or removed or
Or
whatever.
improved or optimized, and also pulls in, through Knowledge Buddy and RAG, the full set of enterprise knowledge that might be available to me. So it's
Excellent.
all around how do I get that to the user who's actually trying to do the process as they're doing it, right as they're working,
Yes,
so that
yes,
we can
excellent,
make this stuff smarter and more effective in real time.
excellent. And do you give goals to coach?
So the great thing about Coach, right, is you can define it and prompt it with your own best practices and your own goals. So
Okay.
one of the first sort of internal test cases we developed for Coach was for our own sales teams.
Mhm.
So, sales, an opportunity is a process. And we have a goal at the end of an opportunity, which is to hopefully close some business. And we have a set of best practices that we want our sales teams to go through. Have they done the right qualifications? Have they contacted and reached out to the right contacts? Well, what we use the sales coach to do is to basically analyze all the information in our opportunity. What contacts do you know? Where are you? What have been the recent communications you've had? And based on our best practices, now give advice to our seller to say, hey, I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that, that have you truly qualified this? Because based on the
Mhm.
contacts, I don't see the kinds of buyers that you would need to talk to in order to qualify a deal. So, so that dynamic sort of understanding of best practices and then using that to drive work to the best possible outcome is exactly what Coach is designed to do.
Excellent. And coach is available to each and every employee in the company
It can be
or to,
available to all. Yeah, it's available for anybody, any employee in the company who's using Pega, right? Coach can
yeah,
be attached to the process that they're working on to dynamically guide them through the process.
excellent. And that would be the top of all the spectrum of products and solutions that you have
Yep.
can be managed by coach, basically.
That's right. Yeah. And from an end user perspective, that's right. Right. So if you think about Blueprint being the sort of center point of like helping design and build your processes the right way, Coach is really then how you help your users run and execute them in the most efficient and effective way possible.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. So you have a very a very rich uh, uh, range of products of solutions
That's right.
and that go flow from workflow, low code workflow to chatbots, improved chatbots to automation. Uh,
That's right.
uh, and this coach sits on top of all this to help you redesign upfront, then manage and optimize the overall. Uh,
That's right. That's right. And if you think about where Pega gets used, right? We primarily, the way clients use us fit into three big buckets. We get used to drive improved client customer engagement. So, one of the interesting things that Pega has is in addition to being a workflow engine, we're also a real-time decisioning engine. So we get used at pretty massive scale to recommend what's called next best action, right? So
Okay.
I'm using a bunch of statistical AI models to figure out things like how likely is a customer to want to churn? How likely are they to want to buy additional products from us? How likely are they to need service help? How likely are they to be, to be involved in high risk or fraudulent activities? And based on all of those predictions, recommend when a customer calls a contact center or hits a website, what's the most valuable conversation we can have? Both valuable for the business, but relevant to the customer at the same time. Um,
Excellent.
and we do that at massive scale for organizations like Verizon. And we're going to have National Australia Bank and T-Mobile on stage at Pega World talking about how they use this real-time decisioning to drive massive impact into their customer segment. So that's one big area where we get used.
Okay.
The other big area where we get used is in the customer servicing space. So think about any kind of workflow that is customer facing. How do you
Mm.
onboard a customer? How do you service the customer? How do you fix things for the customer when they go wrong? So much of the workflow that comes into a business is really customer requests that are coming in that need to get serviced. So we get used both as sometimes we're the contact center desktop to do that. Sometimes we're the workflow engine plugged into a variety of different channels and desktops, but to manage all of those customer facing workflows. And then the third big area that we get used is more in the customer facing and core operations. So once that request comes in, what needs to be done to fulfill it? How do we do the if there's if a customer detects fraud, what do we do to then report, mitigate, manage that whole process? So the sort of core operations of the business. Um, and that's sort of where Pega has now always, that's where we've always been. And with the generative AI technology, we're now able to layer in, as you say, something like Coach to be able to help guide across all those different processes the best
Yeah.
way to get them done.
Yeah.
Blueprint to
Bringing
help you
like a
to,
glue. I'm bringing like a
yes,
glue across all this and making sense of those different dimensions
that's
together.
right. That's
Uh,
right.
Very interesting. Uh, I heard about the self-optimizing enterprise. Is it this?
Yeah.
Is
So I think this
it
this has
coach?
a lot to
Yeah.
do with it, right? The as we've been looking at what ultimately AI means from a business perspective, I think obviously, as we've said, there's going to be this lift in productivity that hopefully we all get, right? And I think we've all already seen it, right?
Yes.
I now when I have a meeting, I don't have to summarize the action items. I let WebEx tell me what the action items are.
Mm-mm-mm.
Great, that's really useful. Um, but I think the organizations that use this to leapfrog themselves aren't just going to grab these productivity increases. They're going to be continuously optimizing every aspect of their business, how they communicate with customers and engage with them, how they service the customers, how they run their core operations. And this idea of continuous optimization, I think, is going to accelerate a lot because
Mhm.
AI is going to allow us to process more of the information and feedback that we're getting from work employees are doing and engagements we're having with customers so that we can dynamically respond to that and make improvements almost in real time. But the way I think about this is I think this is part of an ongoing journey that clients who have been working with automation for decades have been on. And I think it's really important that we not try to jump right to some sort of self-driving business. Much in the same way, I don't think anybody wants to just jump behind the wheel of a car and push a button and have it take you someplace without
Mm.
any kind of control and safety mechanism.
Yes.
I think organizations are going on this journey of, taking work in the business that was historically pretty unmanaged,
Mhm.
right? Just kind of happening, little visibility, little control, little even prioritization a lot of times the first step is simply adding management to the work, adding prioritization, laying down some common structure so you can track it against a best practice. That structure then becomes the framework for automation. And now you start adding automation to the work. So you figure out, how do I use a bot to automate something? Or how do I pull in data automatically so a user doesn't have to go to 4 or 5 different systems? Or can I use business rules to automate an approval or determine the best person to route something to? So I'm adding automation. What I think we've learned over the last couple of years is, well, okay, now I have all that work. I'm building a history of how it gets done. So I should be able to predict what future stuff needs. So now all of a sudden my work isn't just automated, it's starting to become intelligent. And if that intelligence learns from a feedback loop, and if I broaden that feedback loop to include things like process mining and broader sets of data about how work is getting done across my business, and I can direct that to either my user in real time or to a process designer or a process architect who's thinking about what the next version of the process needs to look like. Well, now all of a sudden, I'm making my processes better on an ongoing basis. Not, it doesn't have to be a big redesign process. It's a continual process
I
of
know.
improvement. And I
Mhm.
think that being able to truly achieve that for a lot of businesses would just generate a huge amount of not just improved productivity, but better experiences for their customers and their employees.
I'm just drinking your words. That's amazing vision. And that's the self-optimizing enterprise that not only, I mean, not only the platforms helps to make better decisions using the different data from the different functions in the enterprise, but also identifies what can be done better, improves or at least proposes to improve, and then follows up on those improvements and loops up new opportunities to improve further. So that's a funnel to, yeah, to excellence, to enterprise excellence.
That's right. And enterprise excellence. Well, and I also think accelerated enterprise innovation, right? Because I think the other thing that it creates the opportunity for is the discovery of new ways of working and new ways of doing things that allow me to, whether it's bring new experiences, new products, new opportunities into my business.
Excellent. Let's talk about how your clients are bringing AI and automation in their business. What are the critical success factors you've seen, and what would you recommend to the people watching us
Yeah,
now?
so I think there are a couple of things. I do think it's really important when we talk about AI in our business that we not turn AI into one monolithic thing. AI isn't one technology. It's actually a
Mhm.
bunch of different technologies and different approaches, each of
Yes.
which can solve very different problems.
Yes.
So
Different capabilities, we can say. Yeah.
they're different
Yeah.
capabilities, right? And they need to fit to the business need. And frankly, they also have different levels of risk and maturity with them, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think any client is ready to have a large language chatbot, Gen AI chatbot, talk directly to their customers without any kind of human editing in the middle. There's still a lot of unpredictability and lack of
Mm-mm.
auditing and hallucination. Makes complete sense.
Mm-mm.
At the same time, there are statistical and predictive forms of AI that we can actually deploy safely with ethical bias guardrails in place, with transparency and explainability, and at massive scale to
Mm.
drive better customer experiences, more relevant customer engagement, better optimization of our business processes.
Nice.
So I think it's important when we say where we're going to apply AI, we understand what the AI that we're applying is. And then I think that organizations are also starting to find ways to start to get comfortable with what I would term the more right brain AI. Statistical AI is left brain,
Mhm.
it's mathematical,
Yes.
deterministic, analytical. Generative AI is kind of right brained. It's creative. It's a little unpredictable.
Mhm.
Or it kind of goes where it wants to go. But I think organizations are finding now ways to apply right brained AI, whether it's things like RAG, that we talked about a little bit, where you start putting a box and some controls around it. So you get some degree of predictability, you get a degree of auditing, you get a degree of restriction of the risks of things like hallucination, you get traceability to source content and source documents. So we're seeing a lot of uptick around Knowledge Buddy, our RAG based product. We're
Mhm.
seeing a lot of uptick with Blueprint, um, because the other nice thing about Blueprint is now AI as a collaborative tool with the human. So, AI recommends a blueprint. It doesn't actually go implement it completely for you. It says, hey, here's a starting point. And it facilitates then a conversation across the business experts to now think about, okay, how would you change that? Where would you work from that? What would I do? And that's really powerful again because it's not AI trying to supplant the work a human's doing. It's
Mm.
AI trying to augment what a human's doing and help them actually be more innovative and more creative in the way that they work. So I think that's had a really powerful response with our clients as well because they see it truly as a collaborative support to them.
Excellent. And this, can we say this is your vision for the future of AI at Pega?
Yeah, I mean, look. I think our vision for where AI is going. I think this
Mhm.
idea of self-optimizing businesses, right, or
Yes.
what we've sometimes called the autonomous enterprise,
Yes.
absolutely is sort of where we see this going. Um, and I also think that we're probably going to. I think we're going to see an unleashing of a sort of new era of enterprise transformation. Because I also think that one of the prime kind of weights or friction points sometimes for enterprise innovation
Mhm.
is the large amount of system complexity, technical debt, that
Yes.
organizations are
Mm.
that have. And I think there is a huge potential, and this is something, that we are going to spend a lot of the second half of the year working on and working with clients about to more rapidly digest what is sitting in some of these legacy systems
Mhm.
and help you turn it into more modern, not just technologically modern, but also more modern experiences, more modern business processes that are designed for a digital world, that are designed for a customer first world. Um, and I think that acceleration of transformation is going to be really, really exciting to watch because I think it's going to open up a lot of organizations and free them from some of the traditional sort of shackles or sort of counterweights that have made it hard to accelerate maybe at the speed that they want to. So I think that's going to be a really exciting thing that we see maybe over the next year to 18 months.
Very interesting. Very interesting. That's the next generation of GenAI coach, correct?
Yes.
That getting to the next level of intelligence. And uh, what do you think about this trend? And I mean, this trend of AI agents. We all talk about this
Yeah.
currently. You think a GenAI coach sits completely in this?
I think it is certainly a form of an AI agent. What I want to be careful about is I don't want we have a tendency sometimes to use new technology to create new silos, right?
Yes.
So we've and you and I've both been in the tech world for a while. Like I've seen this now happen multiple times, right? So we had web-based technology, and what we used web-based technology to do is build a whole bunch of web apps, right? That now users have n number of web-based apps on their systems that they now need to go work with. And then mobile showed up, and now we have like hundreds of mobile apps that we need to go flip and flack between in order to get work done. What I hope we don't do or we minimize is
Uh-huh.
now having hundreds of agents smart agents that are just there to help us. So when we look at something like Coach, our fundamental starting point is it has to be deeply integrated into the work that you're doing.
Mm.
It has to be deeply, deeply integrated into the casework that you're doing. Which means one, it has to use the context so that it's you don't have to go tell it the thing you're working on. It knows the thing you're working on
Mm.
and is naturally guiding you based on that. You don't have to tell it the goal. It knows the goal of the thing you're trying to work on, so
Mm.
it can help you get there faster. Um, and I think the other thing I think that's going to shift over the the coming say months and years, I think the first form we've seen of a lot of this AI has taken the form of chatbots.
Mhm.
And I think that's partly because that was ChatGPT. That's how we saw this stuff. I actually don't think that users necessarily want chatbots all the time. I
Mhm.
actually think some of the best experiences that we've been able to deliver sometimes with Gen AI has been Gen AI that's so integrated in the user doesn't even know that it's happening. They're just getting a recommendation. They're getting a button that appears on their screen. They're getting, and I think we've seen this now. Some of the ways that we're seeing these productivity tools just fold into I'm going to summarize this email for you. I don't need to chat to a chatbot to get it. So I think the better we integrate these agents and smartness into the user experiences rather than use them to create parallel experiences,
Yes,
we'll get better adoption and better impact.
definitely. We are really talking about augmentation,
Yes.
and not alongside automation, uh, that that can create redundancy, that can create risks, as you mentioned.
That's right. And that frankly, I think actually minimizes the adoption rate. Whereas
Yep.
if it's integrated into where people are, we'll get better adoption, which means we'll get better impact and we'll also learn faster
Yeah.
as we continue to go.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. I love that. I mean, like it was very exciting to have all those news from you and
Yeah.
understand what you're working on. Can you tell us about what we can expect for Pega World this year?
Yeah. So, well, first and foremost, what I'm most excited for Pega World is um, 5,000 really, really smart and engaged people getting together to bang around ideas on this. I think the most exciting thing about Pega World is the energy that just happens when you've got people who have all kind of in one way or another looked at the same problem, right? Being able to come to a space and actually collaborate and think and engage. So,
Yeah.
we're going to have our clients, our partners, our engineering team, thinkers like you, like all together. So I think I'm really excited for that. Um, I'm really excited as I am always for the Innovation Hub, which is where we bring our product teams and we really try to open up everything that we're doing. So show you some of the latest and greatest stuff that we just released, like Coach and Blueprint, but also show our clients some of the stuff that's sitting in the lab. What's coming? What's the next generation? Some of that enterprise modernization I was talking about, future enhancements that we're planning for Coach. And that's really I just hugely valuable because so much of this technology, because it's moving so fast, if I can accelerate the feedback loop between the engineering teams and our clients so that
Mhm.
we can get real-time tactile feedback from clients about this would help me. Yeah, this not so much, but this can you make this a little strong? So that moment is always just so exciting because our clients get ideas, our engineers get ideas, our partners get ideas, and we all leave just inspired and with a whole list of things we want to go work on, for the next couple of months.
Yes.
So I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited to hear from a number of our clients. We've got some great stories from National Australia Bank and T-Mobile and the Veterans Affairs Agency. So just really great organizations that are doing, I think, pretty transformational stuff. So it's going to be exciting to hear some of those stories as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Don. I'm excited. I look forward
Yeah,
to it.
yeah. We
And
look forward to seeing you
thanks.
there.
Yes, I look forward to the event. And Don, again, thanks so much for your time and for those exciting news. It was really full of insights. Thanks a lot for chatting with me and
Thank you so
sharing all
much.
this with the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.